It goes on and it says, after this the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your very great reward. But Abram said, O sovereign Lord, what can you give me since I remain childless? And the one who will inherit my estate is Eliezer of Damascus. One of the servants in his own household was next in line to receive all of Abram's goods because he didn't have his own son. God goes on to say, then the word of the Lord, I'll finish that verse first. It says, and Abram said, you have given me no children, so a servant in my household will be my heir. Then the word of the Lord came to him, this man will not be your heir. Excuse me, I got a bit of a cough today. But a son coming from your own body will be your heir. He took him outside and said, look up at the heavens and count the stars, if indeed you can count them. Then he said to him, so shall your offspring be. Abraham believed the Lord, and he credited it to him for righteousness. Abraham simply took God at his word and said, I don't have a son now, but God promises me sons as many as the stars in the sky. He believed God, and God credited it to him for righteousness. Now I'll divert for just a second and tell you that Paul uses this exact account to prove that we are saved by faith alone and not of works. Abraham was credited as righteous before he was circumcised, and we also are credited as righteousness without any works, including circumcision or anything else. We stand justified before God because of faith alone. And we'll get into that a little bit at the end, how you can receive Jesus Christ, what you need to know in order to make that decision, and I hope you'll make it. Abraham fell face down. He laughed and said to himself, will a son be born to a man 100 years old? This is later in Genesis 17, when Abraham had already had a son, Ishmael, through an Egyptian. But he's being promised a son through his wife, Sarah. Anyway, he's now 100 years old. Will a son be born to a man who is 100 years old? Will Sarah bear a child at the age of 90? So his wife is very old, he's very old, and he kind of laughed and thought, how can this be? And Abram said to God, if only Ishmael might live under your blessing. Ishmael being the son of Hagar the Egyptian, who was the maidservant of Sarah. So they had this union in order to bear offspring because they were trying to hurry along God's plan. And what happened? They had Ishmael. Now understand that the Muslim people say that Ishmael and not Isaac is the son of promise. The Bible records differently. It's much older. It's accurate. It can be verified in every possible way you can imagine. And so it is not Ishmael who received the blessing. It was Isaac. Further, it does say in the Quran that a son would receive a promise and did receive a promise. It does not specifically name that person. It's something that Muslims have added in after the Quran was written, saying, well, it was Ishmael and not Isaac. Clearly it's Isaac. Redemptive history, the Bible, everything that points to Jesus Christ's coming indicates that Isaac and not Ishmael was the son of blessing. Then the Lord said, I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah your wife will have a son. This is the end of the promise for Isaac, that in a year the son of promise would be born. All right, now we're going to go down to Genesis 21, and it says, the child grew and was weaned, and on the day Isaac was weaned, Abraham held a great feast. But Sarah saw that the son whom Hagar the Egyptian had borne to Abraham was mocking. And she said to Abraham, get rid of that slave woman and her son, for that slave woman's son will never share in the inheritance with my son Isaac. The matter distressed Abraham greatly because it concerned his son, meaning Ishmael. But God said to him, do not be so distressed about the boy and your maidservant. Listen to what Sarah tells you, because it is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned. I will make the son of the maidservant into a nation also, because he is your offspring. As a courtesy to Abraham, he promised to make Ishmael into a great nation as well, but he did not receive the blessing. This is very important to understand, because all of this that's going on in the Middle East right now, these claims that we're the sons of promise, are clearly false. All you need to do is just look at the Jewish people and what they've accomplished in human history, being 1% of all the human population, and then look at what the Muslims have done, being a huge percentage of the population. They've done nothing. So God has blessed the people of Israel. They've accomplished a great deal, and they've been a real blessing to the nations, and they've also brought in the Messiah, the great blessing to all nations, which is Jesus Christ. It goes on in Genesis 22. Abraham looked up, and there in the thicket he saw a ram caught by its horns. Now understand that Abraham was told to take Isaac, the son of promise, up on a hill and to sacrifice him. Okay? And he obeyed. He was wondering, well, this is the son of promise. How am I going to have all these children that I'm promised? He was obedient. He took his son up on the hill. He laid him on the altar and, prepared to slay his son. It says, but anyway, before he slayed his son, God said, withhold your hand, Abraham. You've proved that you love me above everything else. And so we're going to continue on with this line of promise through Isaac. Anyway, Abraham looked up, and there in the thicket he saw a ram caught by its horns. He went over and took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering instead of his son. So Abraham called that place, the Lord will provide. And to this day it is said, on the mountain of the Lord it will be provided. This is the exact same place that Jesus Christ was crucified about 1900 years later. So understand, God's promise was fulfilled here. The Lord will provide in the person and in the work of Jesus Christ. And the angel of the Lord called to Abraham from heaven a second time and said, I swear by myself, declares the Lord, that because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only begotten son, I will surely bless you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as the sand on the seashore. Your descendants will take possession of the cities of their enemies, and through your offspring, all nations on earth will be blessed because you have obeyed me. God is confirming the promise that he made earlier. He tested him, he passed the test, and therefore God says all nations on earth will be blessed through you, and that means through Isaac, because he is the son of promise. Isaac prayed to the Lord. This is much later in Genesis 25 when Isaac is older and has his own children. Or is going to have his own children. It says Isaac prayed to the Lord on behalf of his wife. At the time she couldn't have children. It says because she was barren. The Lord answered his prayer, and his wife Rebekah became pregnant. The babies jostled each other within her, and she said, why is this happening to me? So she went to inquire of the Lord. The Lord said to her, now understand, this is before they were born. God had divinely elected one over the other. 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples from within you will be separated. 1 people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger. Before they were born or had done anything right or wrong, they were already chosen which one would serve which and which one would receive the blessing. Divine election. This is God's sovereign choice. The older son Edom, or Esau, became the father of the Edomites, and of course the other son Jacob, Israel, became the father of the nation of Israel. Once when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau came in from the open country famished. He said to Jacob, quick, let me have some of that red stew. I'm famished. That is why he's also called Edom. Jacob replied, first, sell me your birthright. Look, I'm about to die, Esau said. What good is a birthright to me? But Jacob said, swear to me first. So he swore an oath to him, selling his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau some bread and some lentil stew. He ate and drank and then got up and left. So Esau despised his birthright. Not only would he not be the son of promise with a blessing, but he gave up his birthright, which was the inheritance of the firstborn son, according to their laws. It goes on down in Genesis 27. So he went to him and kissed him. Now this is Jacob when he was being deceitful and wearing Isaac's clothes and trying to make himself, Esau's clothes and trying to make himself look like his older brother Esau, so he could also obtain the blessing in addition to the birthright. What he did was deceitful, but God knew it would happen before he created the world, and this is all part of God's sovereign choices and redemptive history. So he went to him and kissed him. When Isaac caught the smell of his clothes, he blessed him and said, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. May God give you of heaven's dew and of earth's richness, and abundance of grain and new wine. May nations serve you, and peoples bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may the sons of your mother bow down to you. May those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed. This is similar to the blessing given to Abraham. It's gone on now to Jacob, Israel, and his brothers would bow down to him, and they still are to this day, and they will continue to do so. Judah, your brothers will praise you. Your hand will be on the neck of your enemies. Your fathers will bow down to you. This is speaking of Jacob's 12 sons. You have the son Judah, the 4th son, and he is giving his blessings to all 12 children that he had, and this is the blessing to Judah. You are a lion's club, O Judah. You return from the prey, my son. Like a lion he crouches and lies down. Like a lioness, who dares to rouse him? The scepter, meaning the rule, the authority, the symbol of rule, the scepter will not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, until he comes to whom it belongs, and the obedience of the nations is his.